Hello out there in La Land. We resume our course on honorable mention, this time focusing again on the mitzvah of hospitality. Today's class is Lila Nishmas Recha Leah Bas Chaim Tzvi. At the end of last class, we spoke about in detail, quoting from the wonderful new sefer by the Teitelbaum family in London, and I want to tell one more anecdote, but I must give a big background before we get to this one little story. And this is a story about the remarkable Recha Shternbuch, otherwise known as the Heroine of Rescue. During the time of World War II, Switzerland, which would have been the most natural haven for Jews to escape to, had closed its borders hermetically. The head of the Swiss border control, Heinrich Rothmann, was a rabid, vitriolic anti-Semite. As a matter of fact, the J on passports from Austria and Germany and Austria had an open border with Switzerland. So it would have been easy for Austrian citizens and German citizens, be they of the Jewish persuasion, to go to the natural haven of Switzerland. Came Heinrich Rothmann of the Swiss border control and said, put a J on the passports. And it was similar to the situation of America and Canada, where there's an open border. Now, post 9/11, it's a little more difficult and arduous to cross the border, but it used to be just an American citizen, even without a driver's license, could cross the border into Canada, and Canada into America. Same was from Austria to Switzerland, Germany to Switzerland. Comes Heinrich Rothmann and says, no, let's put a J so we'll know who's a Jew, and not allow them to escape, because we don't want Jews. In the Heroine conference of 1938, in other words, after Kristallnacht, and there's so much press in America, we must do at least something on behalf of Jewry in Austria and in Germany. So FDR wanted to milk this to the fullest, to make the greatest show and do absolutely nothing. That was the Heroine conference, which took place on Lake Geneva, the border between Switzerland and France, hosted by America, and every country that which was invited to the conference. All 33 countries were told, you're invited to come, but no one is expected to do anything to open their borders to those who come, in their own country, to allow Jews to come in. It was a failure from the outset. At the conference, Australia says, we don't have a Jewish problem, we don't want to import one. Heinrich Rothmann, this rabid, vitriolic anti-Semite, speaks at the conference on behalf of Switzerland. On behalf of Switzerland, to allow Jews to have a haven for refugees, and he says, we have as much need for the Jews as the Germans do. The conference was a fiasco. Hence, a reporter for one of the newspapers wrote, Avion backwards spells naive, which is exactly what it was. Okay, while this is going on, Recha Shternbuch and her husband her husband Yitzchak and his brother Eli are doing all which they can to try and save Jews into Switzerland in any which way which they can. They lived in the Swiss border town of St. Gallen, and they managed to get the head of the local police, Paul Gruninger, to be their aide in bringing Jews to haven to Switzerland. As a matter of fact, on trees it was carved at the border the name of the Shternbuch family and their phone number. You know, like in trees it's carved, Bobby loves Mary. So on the border it was carved the phone number of the Shternbuch family. And whoever made it to the Shternbuch home was assured a warm bath, a bed, food. And they were nothing like the Swiss family of punctuality and orderliness, anything to make a refugee feel at home. And by 1938, there's 800 Jewish refugees who managed to escape in St. Gallen, all thanks to the police chief and his cronies that were on the pay and on the take from the Shternbuch family. However, not everything went so smoothly. On one occasion, Jews came over from Vichy, France. They managed to make it from Nazi-occupied France to Switzerland. And the Shternbuchs learned about this. They did everything which they could to get these people to stay within Switzerland. The Swiss border police escorted them back over the border. Recha Shternbuch, then risking her life, crossed the border, and she waited for the police to leave, and then she wanted to bring them back into Switzerland. A Nazi soldier said, who are you? And she pulled out her Swiss passport and said, I'm a Swiss citizen. But you're a Jew. He said, whatever I am, I'm here to save my brethren. And her confidence and her bravery just shocked the soldier, and she brought these 12 Jews back to Switzerland. Another occasion, I think it was the Blum brothers, made it from Vichy, France, which was Nazi-occupied France, over to Switzerland. And they were told about this on Shabbos morning. So Recha Shternbuch's husband went to Zurich to see what he could, to use connections. And she got into a taxi Shabbos morning and went to the border to try and get these Jews to be in a safe haven. She said, I don't care, she said to the officials, I do not care if you put them in jail for the rest of their lives, but don't send them back to France. Going back to France means their death. Concentration camp and death. And they were successful. And this was not any Shabbos. I think about this story very often. This was the Shabbos of the bar mitzvah of their only son. And people said to their son, you got the greatest bar mitzvah gift. Lives were saved because of your parents. In the Musi negotiations, here would have been the greatest rescue effort in the history of history. On the table were over 600,000, arguably 800,000 Hungarian Jews for $1 million. Now, I'm well aware of the fact that $1 million today is hardly what it was in those days, but still, do you know a Jewish family that wouldn't spend at least $3 million, whether they have it or not, just to save one of their children from a deformity? $1 million was to save. From the time of the invasion into Russia, in a matter of a blink of the eye, Germany lost the war. But they weren't about to give up in the war against the Jews. So now, the officers of Germany were well aware of the fact